I'll introduce myself. I'm Melody Snyder. I'm the Eastern Local Food Coordinator with Abundant Montana. I live in Billings. Um, Super excited for this speaker series. It's kind of a pivot from our expo from 2024, so happy to have this online. It can reach a lot more people. We will have Eric speak for a while, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. So start thinking of some questions you want to ask. Feel free to type them in the chat or keep them to you can keep them as well and then ask directly at the end. But make sure you please stay muted during the presentation unless Eric asks you to come off mute, just so everyone can hear. And again, yeah, feel free to show us your faces. I'd love to see who's all here. But today we are joined by Eric Wickens of the Wickens Salt Creek Ranch. Eric and his wife Emma returned home to Hilger, Montana in 2007 to take the reins of the Wickens family ranch. In this effort, they have prioritized conservation practices to improve the health of their grasslands and to nourish their cattle. This builds a more resilient ranch and rural community for their 5 children. In 2024, Wickens Salt Creek Ranch was awarded the Montana Leopold Conservation Award, which is amazing. We've asked Eric to join us today to share the practices his family's ranch has been implementing on their land, in their ranching operation, and in their Wickens Ranch direct-to-consumer beef program, in order to maximize their business's long-term success, which emphasizes diversity at all levels. These practices include dedicating a portion of their ranch to creating the Montana's first Savory Hub, which is a regenerative agricultural education center joining a network of 50 such hubs across the globe. And I will give it over to Eric.
Thank you, Mel. I'm going to turn this light on and get a little bit brighter. That was a really nice introduction. I don't know. I don't remember if I sent that or not, but that was great. That was very complete. Yeah, I was impressed. So, and Robin, I want to, thanks for the invitation to speak here. Robin and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and just kind of a bit of a chance meeting, but it's been really great and really fruitful. So yes, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here. So. Like Melody said, my name is Eric Wickens, and we ranch. When I say we, it's my wife, Emma, and our children. We have 5 children, ages 16 to 9. The boys are going to be 10 here in a couple weeks, but so we're kind of right in the middle of it. A sophomore. Down to elementary age. And then my parents are also on the ranch with us and help out kind of whenever we need it, which is a lot right now. Dad is working overtime, and Mom always works overtime. So they live just about a half mile down the road from us. But the original ranch was homesteaded by my great-grandpa in 1911, and it's just kind of expanded and grown and split apart, and obviously through 4 generations it's kind of broke off into different pieces, and so we're very, very thankful to be able to still be here on some of it. And we're typically or we're mostly a cow-calf yearling bred female operation. So we raise cattle essentially, and we do have horses, and we raise some different crops, but those crops are really in support of our cattle operation. So we'll raise some hay. We might raise some barley and peas to feed to the cattle. A lot of times we try to raise those in a polyculture mix. And try not to do any monocrops if at all possible, which it's, sometimes it makes sense, but we do like to mix and match things. So yeah, we do we do cover crops and perennial hay and native and just kind of across the board, which is what we're in the middle of right now, is trying to get everything seeded, get the ground seeded, and get cattle out to grass, and just our growing season starts here pretty quick, so it's going to be hot and heavy here for a little while. Like she said, last year we were honored to receive the 2024 Leopold Conservation Award, and it's an award that the Montana DNRC partners with the Sand County Foundation, just to recognize people that are ranches that are doing production, but also conservation alongside that production, which is very, very possible. And, I guess we strive to do that. So today I'm gonna try to walk through what we're doing on our ranch, how we've worked kind of this holistic management framework into what we do, and as a reason why we do it. And then I'm going to transition over into our direct-to-consumer beef business and speak about that a little bit, and then wrap up with our Savory Hub, which we just are officially recognized as a hub through the Savory Network, and it's called the Montana Working Lands Project. So it's kind of the education arm of what we're doing on the ranch here. And again, if you guys have any questions, if I need to stop, just raise your hand or speak up if something doesn't make sense or whatever, and we can address it now, or just put the questions in the chat as they come up. And I want to leave a lot of time for questions, so we'll get back to that. So Emma and I, we got married and moved back to the ranch in 2007. And so historically, our place was a cow-calf operation and it supported my parents. And so when we wanted to move back to the ranch, we had to figure out how to create enough income to now support another family. And within a couple of years of us returning to the ranch, we ended up losing a lease that was about a quarter of our entire place. So we went from about 6,000 acres down to, say, 4,500 acres. And well, that was a big hit to us, because we were now trying to support additional families on less acreage. It really forced us to start thinking outside the box at what we were doing, and if what we were doing was going to be sustainable economically long term for us, which it just wasn't. We're not going to be able to stay if we kept doing what we were doing. So that through that process, we looked at just about every option, from conservation, lifetime conservation easements, to selling off some of the ground, to to clean up debt, to obviously finding leases outside to kind of make up for it. But where we kind of landed was this a thing called sell by marketing. I'm not going to go into it, but essentially we ended up bringing a lot more yearling cattle onto our operation. And yearling cattle are just like grass calves, stalker calves, and I hope people are tracking, but they're essentially animals that we buy in the wintertime. We run on grass, let's say from May to August, and then we resell them, but we can run 2 or 3 times as many of those as we can like a cow-calf pair, for example. So we were able to do a lot more animals, a lot more turnover, and create some opportunities for growth just within what we were doing. But in order to be able to run those animals correctly, we really needed a place to background them throughout the winter, which means just feed them, clean them up, make sure to check their health, and so we needed a lot, so like a backgrounding lot. So we ended up purchasing 40 acres and building a small backgrounding lot that was pretty close to us here, and that just opened up the door for a lot more turnover of animals on our ranch. So all of that to say, this really difficult thing of losing this lease and losing ground really turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because it got us out of this kind of older, comfortable mindset of just running X number of cows year round, putting up hay, just doing everything the same that we had always done it, same way we had always done it, because it just flat was not going to work anymore. And so it was really a blessing in that sense, that once you start looking at one thing differently, you start looking at everything slightly differently. And that has just opened the door to just a lot of innovation, and just how we kind of look at everything today is with this more open mind because of that experience. So we don't like going through these hardships, these difficult times, but we also know on the other side of those is going to be some real growth. And so it helps get through them, and just know that this is probably a really positive thing in the long term of what we're going through. So so part of this as well was I had attended the ranch management program down in TCU when I was 19 years old, and it was a really, really great program. I graduated, I came back home. I was home for about 2 years, and I was just not ready to be home full time. So I went to Bozeman, to MSU, and got a range science degree, which was also good. The experience was good. It's where I met Emma, and I brought all of that knowledge home with me. And while it was useful, it still felt disconnected, in a sense that we studied soils, we studied plant physiology, we studied animals in these different classes, but they weren't tying together necessarily. So for example, like your plants, if you sprayed fertilizer on or herbicides, you might get good plant growth, but you're setting your soils back, right? Or if you do something for your soils, you might set your plants back, or just not have the production that you could have. So this was on my mind, and I ended up stumbling across Alan Savory's holistic management book, and it's a textbook. If anyone's read it, it's a legitimate. It's wonderful, but it's a college textbook. But when I read it, was this absolute eye-opening, like, turning point, because it put everything together. It brought all of the animals, the land, the soil, the water, and it gave us like a system to look at all of those things together in relationship to each other in this whole. And so that really, really kicked off a different level of management on our place, where we just started grazing. We started doing everything differently based on this bigger kind of picture, this bigger idea of how interconnected. And it seems obvious as I'm saying it, or it feels obvious to me, but it really is not. when you're going through school, everybody is specialized in whatever subject they're working on, and they just don't talk to each other as much as you would expect. So, so that was a big turning point for me and for the ranch and for our family and everything. So because of that, we stopped, really started just observing the land and what we were seeing, and kind of just stopped projecting my ideas, my views onto the land, and tried to just sit with it and let the land instruct and guide really what it needed. And so anytime if we're curious about something, we'll do it on a small scale. You know, we might do it in 50, 100 acre kind of experiments all the time. And then we see the results from those. And then we will, you know, expand or abandon, you know, whatever we're up to. So this is just a bit of a warning for people who are wanting to jump out and try these new things. Is I would just say, just absolutely go crazy with it, but do it on a small scale and watch and measure, and then, you know, adapt as necessary, because nobody gets it right the first time or the second or and then even the third. But that is really, I'm gonna leave, just be thinking if you have any questions about the actual ranch and what we do, because I can talk all day, but I just don't know which direction to go with it exactly. So I'm gonna let people guide that through questions. Because I'll sit here for an hour and talk about things that might be putting you to sleep or whatever. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of direct that. But I'm gonna jump to our direct-to-consumer beef business. It's also called Wickens Ranch, and it was in March of 2020, which we all remember that, you know, the spring of 2020. It was a real turning point. I think it's like the new reference point, I think, for humanity almost. But got a call from my brother Jason, who lives in Bozeman, and he has a live music venue, and he was kind of panicking that they were going to get shut down, which he was ultimately right about. But he wanted to create some sort of a business. And this is something that we've been talking about for years and kind of complaining about the big packers and how much control they have, and mostly feeling sorry for ourselves if we ever got any bad prices, you know, that it was like their fault. And so he called, kind of, it pushed us off the fence. My other brother, Matt, my older brother, had animals that were ready to go, ready to be processed. So we just jumped in, really not knowing. We thought we knew what we were doing, but we learned just pretty quickly there's a difference between doing it for yourself and going out into a wider market. But we figured that stuff out pretty quickly. And so we launched our Wickens Ranch beef into the Bozeman market, because that's where my younger brother Jason lived, and we knew that we had to have somebody involved in the business, running the business, that side of it, because we just couldn't do it all from the ranch. So yeah, in 2020 we started that, and our model is a direct-to-consumer, with also some restaurant and grocery store business, but we want to do, you know, at least half of what we're doing direct-to-consumer. And we decided early on that we were not going to ship our products, for a few reasons. The biggest one just being the food miles is it's pretty large. If you start shipping a box of 10 pounds across the country, those miles add up. So for one animal, if you ship that animal in 10-pound boxes down to LA, let's say, each animal has about 40,000 miles worth of food miles associated with it. And so I just don't feel like we're moving forward with regenerative, local, direct-to-consumer beef if if one animal is traveling 40,000 miles. So we wanted to do a little bit different take and stay really local and do, doorstep delivery with people, where we can literally use coolers in the back of um, personal vehicles that are already making the trips. And so our model has just been hyper local to the Bozeman, Gallatin Valley, Big Sky area, and then the animals are all from Montana, and they're fed with grain and peas and hay and straw, and everything that's just comes within the state. So we're trying to keep the dollar circulating as much as we can, not as much as we can, but 100% within the state, and also the commodities. Because we live in communities that are not only ranching communities, they're also farming communities. So our neighbors are producing barley, they're producing peas that they're having to truck. A lot of them are trucking them 100 miles, one semi-load at a time, to put them on a train to be shipped to the West Coast and across the ocean, where we can literally use that same product and pay them the same price, and they drive it 5 miles down the road and put it into our bin. And so this is really the model that we are trying to promote and trying to create a market for those guys. And it's working really, really well. And people like that ability to just bring the grain to us, or their hay or their straw or whatever that we need. So another part of the business that we have really wrestled with is trying to figure out which labels to get or to not get. We've kind of landed on this idea that we're just going to build trust with our customers and skip the labels for the most part and just do the right thing at all times. And then people that trust us to do that, then there are people. So I'm going to jump to the latest project that we're working on, and this came about really through Robin. When her and I met, she was in the area. We got together, and I had mentioned that I would love to have a Savory Hub on our ranch, and it's just essentially like a demonstration site. And she was good friends with the Michael and Michael DeChalis, and they were in the process, most of the way through process of being certified to have a hub. And so anyways, we got together, and it was a bit of a process, but we got certified through the Savory Network. And it's really just an education arm, a training piece of what we do on the ranch to bring people in and teach them the same framework that we use to make decisions on a ranch to get the results that we want, that are based on the context and the goals that we have for our place. And it's going to be different for every person, every ranch. But a lot of places have not gone through the process of figuring out what they want it to look like in the first place. So we're really, it's a decision-making framework. It's a tool that is incredibly valuable, that we're going to help walk people through. So with that, I hope there's some questions, and maybe I didn't even give you guys enough to ask any questions, but anyways, yeah, if there's any questions about any part of this, then I would love to open it up.
Yeah, if you want to check the chat, there's a few
Is there? Okay.
questions in there. Oh, and then Frank is also raising their hand.
Frank, you want to hop in and go?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks, it's really interesting. I'm curious about water. Has that been an issue for you, or do you have enough well water capacity or and so forth?
You bet. For running our cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked about water because that's a limiting factor for running like our yearlings, for example. So we're gonna have a herd of about 850 yearlings in one group.
Mhm.
And so they require a lot of water. So we have to have that capacity available for them. A couple years after I came home, we partnered with NRCS through the EQIP program and got approved for water lines and tanks all over the place. So that's what we plumbed water lines over, probably like 6 miles worth of water lines. And yes, that's the NRCS and especially the EQIP program have been an absolute savior for us. But there's other ways to do it if you have reservoirs you can pump out of or you know. So we don't, I will say this, we don't have any crazy water supply. We have wells that will do about 10 to 15 gallons a minute
Hmm.
is all. And we're pumping into generally speaking 2,000 gallon rectangular water tanks, and that's completely adequate for that group, for that number of animals.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was also curious about overwintering for the yearlings. You guys have bitter cold winters out there, at least in some parts of the state. I know that. And do you have to make special provisions for that then, or how does that work?
That's where that backgrounding, that lot that we built comes into play.
Okay.
Yes, because you're right. They won't gain any weight. They'll eat a lot of feed, and um, that lot allows us to really manage them well throughout the winter. And so we'll do 2 or 3 turns during the winters. So I'll run through a quick production cycles. We'll start like October 15th. We purchase all of the animals. We get them. We size them up. We cut out ear tags. We fix any stuff, and we shape them into like semi-load lots and groups. And we might keep them for 60 to 90 days,
Hmm.
and then sell them, and then go back in and rebuy and replace them again. So this is kind of getting back to figuring out different ways to survive. Instead of a cow calf operation, you have one paycheck a year when you sell those cows in the fall, essentially. That's simplistic because you have cull cows and you have different things, but generally speaking, you have one big paycheck. Then you try to budget that paycheck out until the next fall for 1 year. We try to turn our entire inventory over 3 or 4 times a year by selling and then rebuying these animals.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, we'll buy them October. Let's say we'll sell them December. We rebuy, and then we'll shape those up, and we'll sell that group in let's say March, and we rebuy those, and then we'll run those through May, June, July, and then we'll sell those and start the whole process over again. So, yeah. All right. Species I'm looking at. We don't grow any fresh veggies. I mean, like in our garden, we do. Yes. Grains we do. Is there any other, sorry. Has the market been in Bozeman? Does it feel oversaturated with beef? So the direct consumer beef business, there is so much room for local beef, for sure. The market it's not oversaturated. it's just really hard to do. Direct to consumer selling of any kind is really, really difficult. We've seen a lot come and go businesses in these past 5 years, because you're competing with commodities essentially all the time. And so we have to elevate the conversation past price, and more on just all the other factors of regenerative agriculture and quality and this kind of stuff. So yes. We use processing. We use Stillwater. It's a USDA inspected plant down in Columbus. We have tried to sell through the schools, and it's just really difficult. Again, that price point it's always a sticking point. So schools we would love to sell through schools just from the sheer volume, but I don't know that it makes the most sense to do that, where they can they're just able to find cheaper options. So yeah, and a budget's a budget at the end of the day.
I'm going to ask her say a little bit more about that, because I'm working with schools specifically on these kind of topics. And it just got cut for this year, but there in the past several years, there's been a local foods to schools grant that schools have been able to access. And it would be, assuming that grant ever comes back, that would be a possible way to do it, where a school could put a certain amount of money from their grant towards local beef purchasing. And then the price per pound doesn't matter as much as the fact that it's local, because they got extra money to do that. The other thing that we found with schools is that a lot of our school food service directors don't even know what their budget is. Full stop. Don't know their budget. And that was like eye-opening to me when I found out that they have zero control over their budget and they don't know what their budget is. So they say we don't have any money in our budget, and they don't know that. So there's potentially ways around that issue. And I would love to see more Montana beef making its way into schools one way or another. You're right. Price point is an issue, but there are some potential ways around that. So keep watching and looking at those kind of markets, even if I love that you guys are USDA inspected. So many Montana ranchers don't have a way to get USDA inspected processing for their beef, and then it's an automatic no for schools. So anyway, just thought I'd put that in there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And consistency of product, of supply is another huge concern. So we have a monthly scheduled date with Stillwater, where we bring every single month, the second Tuesday of the month, we bring in them animals, which is really important for obviously restaurants or any institutions that are serving people on a consistent basis. They have to have it when they need it. And so we've worked really hard to keep it in front of them year round in a steady supply. Yeah.
Hey, Eric, I had a question back to your business model. You were just talking about how you buy and sell your herd a couple times a year. Does that end up resulting in higher profits for you all, or is that a choice just because then you're not waiting on a paycheck once a year, you have income throughout the year?
Yeah, both. Ideally it's both. Yeah, because if just the more turnover, the more times we turn that those animals into cash, the more opportunities we have to keep some of that. And that's always a struggle, right? If our margins are going to be 3%, let's say, that we get to keep, I would rather keep that 3% 4 times a year instead of that 1 time a year. So yeah. And did that answer your question?
Yeah. And are you seeing anybody else, like other ranches in Montana, follow that kind of a model, or do you feel like y'all are pretty unique in that way?
My brother. But other than that, it is being done It's being done, but not very often. No, I can't say that I know very many, if any. Yeah, and because there's a very steep learning curve to it as well. And it really, we have to develop some really solid relationships around all aspects of a business, like our buyer, for example. We have buyers in the sale barns and out in the country looking for calves, 6 days a week. And then they also resell them, and then truck drivers to get them here are vets. We just have to have really good, close relationships with all of these people, because they're very critical. So, and the other thing was the infrastructure is really necessary, like the backgrounding lot that I've referenced a couple times. We have to have that in order to process those animals, keep up on the health of the animals, be able to feed them a diet that keeps them healthy and growing at a rate that works. And so the infrastructure has been pretty significant that we've had to build as well. But yeah, I love doing it, just for like, it's a lot of fun, because it's really busy. It's a challenge, but yeah, really enjoy it though.
I dropped this in the chat, but in the beginning you were talking about how instead of projecting your ideas onto the land, you would sit back and sit with it and see what the land needed. And I was wondering if you could speak more about that. Like, what was the shift, why, like, sort of mindset wise? And also, like, if I was watching you shift, like, what activities would I be seeing or hearing you do?
Yeah. Okay. So like, okay, so like mob grazing or high intensity grazing, are you familiar with that? Generally speaking, it's just intensive grazing. So it is really beneficial to do that type of grazing at certain times of the year, but it's really detrimental to do it at the wrong time of the year. And we've learned those lessons. So like in the springtime, so here it's kind of this is a Savory concept. Alan Savory, he has a YouTube video, and if anyone has not seen it, I would search it, and because it's really, really good. But it's this idea of we just need to get back to mimic nature of the herds of bison. They were in big groups. And they were in big groups grazing because they had predators, natural predators of wolves and grizzly bears and that kind of stuff. And so they roamed around in these very, very large herds. And as they passed through an area, they would just really turn it up. They would eat, all the grass. They would defecate. They would, kick it up with their hooves. When they left, it would look really rough. But they wouldn't come back for a year, 2 years, that kind of a thing. And in the meantime, they've fertilized the soil. They have replanted all of those seeds that were maybe on the ground but didn't have good contact with the soil, and their hooves did that. They fertilized everything. And so to try to mimic that with our cow herd is what we're after right now. So we use electric fence and these different water points to do that. I did it I was doing it like in May, for example, of just kind of looking at the land. We're really told this is a good thing to do. And what I was seeing was that ground was not recovering. If I did it too late, so there's a really, really critical period of growth for our grasses. In May, in June is that really, really critical time. It was setting those plants back for over a year, if by how hard we were grazing them at that particular time. So that's an example of actually kind of paying attention to the land and looking at it versus what we were hearing. And it doesn't mean we don't intensively graze it, but I have spread stuff out in the spring. So now and I think I'm trying to watch the wildlife. I'm trying to take direction from wildlife as well. So like deer, for example, they go off and they have they hide their babies. They calve in May and June. So our cow herd, we've bumped our calving season back into May and June to match up with the natural cycles as well. And the labor is, they do their thing. I'm not up with them. It's just a lot more humane I feel like it's been a really good system, but I don't know that these herds were bunched up in this massive way in the springtime like we are told they were. I think they were more dispersed while they were calving, while they're having their babies. And as the summertime, warmer weather, then they start to group up into the fall and winter, and they would run in these really large herds. So I guess this is what, just trying to pay attention to taking cues from wildlife, but also watching like the effects that we're having on the ground with our management. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm curious, like, what was that a big learning process? Like, in your mind, is there a mindset you would associate with that? Because there's probably a reason not everyone does it, right?
Yeah. Oh, so I think the mindset shift has been not tying myself so personally to the land, and just really trying to be objective about looking at it for what it is, like not defending what we've done in the past, not throwing it all out, but tradition is like, it's tradition. It's fine. I like to keep it for the lessons that it can teach, but also not stake my identity on it as well, and let it kind of control what the future version of what we've done looks like. So if we screw up, and it was a genuine try on our part, and we screw up, that doesn't bother me. Like I'm not going to try to hide that screw up or not learn or ignore it, because I'm not tying my identity or anything to that, right? It's just a series of trying to better understand, and sometimes we hit it, and that's great. Sometimes we really miss, but the important thing is just to continue to learn and grow. And so creating this like kind of separation from identity is what we've done. And like, again, I love the fact that this is a 100-plus-year-old ranch. That doesn't really mean anything though at the end. It means that we've been able to keep it in the family, but I think if we look at the generation that came out here and settled this land, they were the pioneers. They left what they were doing, did this, and then we've turned into settlers. We've kind of quit that pioneering spirit, like we're not honoring them by doing what they did, because they're the ones that left what was home to them and what had always been done, in the first place to come out here. So we take this and we really try to lift it, go to the next level, whatever that even means or is. But so yes, try to honor that. I love that, but really try to honor it by doing and being better. What we look for to indicate if the land is healthy, so like a healthy landscape is looking at the different, there's really 4 cycles. You have your water cycle, which is how well water is flowing through your system. You're getting rainfall in that soil. Is it hitting it and being absorbed down into the profile and being used by those plants, or is it hitting the ground and running off and creating erosion? And so that's the first cycle is the water cycle. The mineral cycle is how well nutrients are being cycled within that system, like how well the plants are uptaking the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all the things, and utilizing them to grow healthy and strong, in order to create a really healthy grass plant that then the animals eat and it makes them healthy and strong. The other is the energy cycle, is how well is the plants capturing sunlight, capturing energy, because that's all they're just like solar panels out there. And so we want wide leaves, for example, it is wide of, and it really, the health of the plant, like it'll grow a wider leaf that really lays open and try to collect as much sunshine as possible. And we have different canopies, so you have taller your shrubs, trees, that kind of stuff, and then your mid canopy and all the way to the ground, and they can utilize different levels of energy. So the energy cycle, and then the last one is the community dynamics. It's just how much diversity do we have in the system? Like I mentioned, the shrubs, the forbs, the grasses, and then within those, do we have a nice mix of all the things, because that creates resilience within the system. If we have a drought, there's going to be plants, forbs, that are a lot more drought resistant, that'll pick up the slack. We might have a wetter year, we might have a late freeze. We just have so many environmental factors coming into play that the more diversity we have, the more resiliency we have to overcome these obstacles. And when we have a good year, thank God, it all grows well, and we try to save that as in our biological savings account. We try to keep it within the system and improve the system, because there's going to be periods of drought where we're going to have to pull from that bank account. So we try to build it up as much as we can in these tougher years, or in these better years, and then try to just not overdraw it during the tough years, because they're always going to come. To consume operation easier. What would make it easier? I'm gonna have to I don't even know, because there's a lot of nothing jumps out. Lots of really, really willing customers that just order lots of food with a smile on their face always. And then leave you 10 reviews and yeah, I think it's good. I guess the reason that doesn't jump out is I think we're moving. I feel pretty good about it, about what we're doing. It's a slow build, but it's a solid foundation that we're building it on. So I'm happy with that. Are we using any supplemental power generation, or is electric off the grid sufficient? How supplemental power? So we have the main water system that we have is powered by a propane generator for those yearlings. And I would love to have solar panels up there, but we don't have electricity. So it is an off the grid water system that does water a lot of animals. And then we use electric fence. We use solar panels and 12-volt batteries for those electric fence to control the animals with.
It looks like Emily ordered from you, and she got her beef delivered really quickly, like the next day. So do you use like a local delivery hub? How does that work?
So we use a company, Bridger Delivery, and they're a third party. So it's a husband and wife that own the business, and this is their business, as they make deliveries to within the medical world, and just kind of like a do-it-all delivery company. Yeah. So we met with them maybe a year and a half ago. I lose track of time, but at any rate, quite a while ago, about doing these deliveries, and they go in and pick them. The orders come in one day, they go in and pick them, and generally they're there the next day. So this is part of this is something we've had to step up our game within and all local beef. Like, we have to make it a little bit more convenient for the customers because we live in an Amazon type world today. And so we're trying to adapt to that to make really immediate deliveries, try to keep our price point reasonable, which it is, considering if we were order from a larger company where it's shipped, the shipping is pretty horrific. So yeah, we use a third party bridger delivery, and it's the owner personally does our stuff, and so she takes a lot of care with it, and we love working with them. Yeah. And sometimes we'll make the deliveries ourselves as well, but this is part of just staying local, using, supporting other companies, independently owned companies, and everyone can benefit.
That's really cool.
Eric and Nicole asked, what does a visit to a Savory Hub consist of? Do you want to answer that question a little bit? You want me to
I would
shed some light
love
on
to have
that?
Michael. I'd love to have you jump in, because I know
Okay.
I absolutely butchered the Savory the Savory Hub
Not? You
description.
did great. Oh my gosh,
No,
you did great.
but yes, I would love for you to talk about that.
Cool. So I'm Michael the Cellist. Eric and I are co-directors of the Savory Hub, and it's called Montana Working Lands Project. I dropped a link to the website in the chat. It's a brand new website, so if you see anything that needs to be changed, let us know. But so visiting a Savory Hub looks a little bit different depending on where you are. There's 54 hubs. I don't know if we make 55 now in the world. So the Savory Hub in Costa Rica, New Zealand looks a little different than our Montana Savory Hub, right? So the hubs have to fit the ecological context of the location that they're in. It also needs to fit the context, what works best for hub leaders and their specific land base. So right now, our hub is currently focusing on education and, to a certain extent, agritourism in central Montana. Eric and Emma have their Montana Rangeland tour through the DNRC June 18th, and Melody dropped the tour there. Oh, what's that face, Eric?
No, this is good. I forgot to add any of the websites or the range tour, or even talk about that you can visit the ranch this summer, that we're doing a range tour. Yes. Yeah, it just reminded me. Sorry.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so you all please come. It's open to everybody. We'll have some good food. We have some great speakers. Savory's leader of holistic management will be there doing a talk and a training. So that's really exciting. And that will basically be the official launch of the hub. And then in July, we're offering an ecological monitoring course. And so this is to train up monitors who can use the Savory method, or also to assist land stewards in understanding how their practices are impacting their land and help them understand how to make changes or shifts in what they're doing. Eventually, we'd like to offer monitoring services. So for that, though, we have to train up some monitors, hence the fact that we're offering this course. And we have a really great trainer, Jackie Eshelman, who's been doing this method for a million years. She's like the best one like ever, basically, is what I've heard. She's teaching our class in July, so I'm really excited to have her there. And then September, October, we're going to have a holistic management training. Eric talked a little bit about how the holistic management framework really impacted his work and how it changed some of the approaches he had on his land. And so we'll be offering that framework course I don't know if it's going to be September, October. We're still working on that. And then we've been talking a lot about how to set up peer networking to use holistic management. I think we'll probably do some other types of tours. Emma, Eric's wife, has just the most brilliant ideas on different things to do and ways to share and use their land. So I think that's something else that we'll be doing in the future. Anything else to add, Eric?
I think so. No, I don't think so.
It looks like
Amazing.
we're about at time too. I just wanted to drop this link as well. If you want a one-stop shop for all events related to food and farms, we're pretty good at keeping everything on there, in relation to local farms and ranches who are doing cool stuff on their land, or yeah. So if you want to look for local events, that's one way to keep track. But other than that, I just want to thank Eric for taking the time to talk with us. I learned so much. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're willing to share your email if anyone has questions. They can reach.
Yeah, you bet. You can, oh, you can reach out at eric@wickensranch.com. That's simple enough. And yeah, Eric at Wickens Ranch if you have any other questions. The range tour will be a nice place to, we're gonna, I didn't talk about like beaver dams, but we're doing a lot of work on riparian areas on the ranch, and trying to get the beavers back in and doing their thing and slowing down water for us. And it's really fun. But the range tour is a good way to show up in person and kind of see all of that stuff. So yeah, yep.
So thank you so much. This is recorded as well, so you can come back and watch if you missed anything. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Bye.